Leviathan, a real creature, an allegory of evil, a symbol of Satan, a mythological lesson from Yahweh. Is it a crocodile or a dragon? Is it prophetic or just hyperbole? What if I told you the most terrifying creature described in the Bible wasn't just real, but a symbol of Satan, a prophecy of the end times, and a living witness to God's unmatched power? It is literal, symbolic, prophetic, and absolutely tied into the overarching biblical narrative linking ancient history to future prophecy and spiritual warfare. What does the Bible say about the creature named Leviathan? Let's dive in. Let's begin with Job chapter 41, the most vivid description of Leviathan in all of Scripture. Here, God is speaking directly to Job. In Job chapter 41, verse 1, it says, "Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line in which you lower?" The entire chapter reads like an anatomical description of a real animal. It has scales like armor in verses 15 through 17. It has terrifying sharp teeth in verse 14. It has red eyes, it blows smoke, and is fire-breathing in verses 18 through 21. It has strength in his neck and limbs in verses 12 and 22, and it stirs up the sea like a cauldron in verse 31. This is not just poetic metaphor. It's a description of a real creature, one of God's creations. In the preceding chapter, Yahweh mentions another fascinating beast, Behemoth. In Job chapter 40, verse 15, it says, "Look now at Behemoth, which I made along with you." This also applies to Leviathan, linking these mighty beasts with the animal kingdom. Job chapter 38 through 41 mentions lions, goats, ostriches, and horses, all real creatures. Why would Leviathan be the only mythical one? And if Behemoth and Leviathan are quote-unquote dinosaurs, there is no such thing as 65 million years before man. Psalm 104 verse 26 says, "There is that Leviathan which you made to play there." The Hebrew word for Leviathan implies a twisting or coiling creature, matching dragon and serpent-like attributes. Even more convincing, ancient global myths speak of massive sea dragons, often with fire-breathing or lightning abilities. These include the Chinese dragon in the zodiac, which happens to be the only mythical animal in their cycle, yet treated like the others. The Babylonian Tiamat, a multi-headed sea serpent. Norse mythology's Jormungandr, the world serpent. The Greek Hydra, another multi-headed serpent. Ryujin, the Japanese sea dragon. Quetzalcoatl, an Aztec dragon deity. And various depictions of medieval dragons with attributes that perfectly mimic the descriptions in Job chapter 41. This universal memory of sea monsters and dragons aligns with the biblical Leviathan, a real creature that left a global, cultural imprint. But Leviathan is also more than physical. It's a powerful symbol of Satan and chaotic rebellion against God. In Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1 it says, "In the day that the Lord with his severe sword will punish Leviathan the fleeing serpent, Leviathan that twisted serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea." This verse directly links Leviathan to the serpent and the dragon, terms used for Satan throughout Scripture. Revelation chapter 12 verse 9 says, "So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan." And in Revelation chapter 13 verse 1 it says, "And I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns." Now compare that with Psalm chapter 74 verse 14, where it says, "You broke the heads of Leviathan in the waters." And with Revelation chapter 12 verse 3, where it says, "And another sign appeared in heaven, behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems." The plural heads ties Leviathan to the multi-headed beast in Revelation. Both represent satanic power emerging from the chaotic sea, a biblical symbol for the Gentile nations, and you can see this in Daniel chapter 7 verses 2 and 3. Leviathan becomes the spiritual archetype of this final beast. And remember, Job chapter 41 verses 33 through 34 says, "On earth there is nothing like him. He is king over all the children of pride." That's a perfect parallel with Satan, as we read in Isaiah chapter 14 verses 12 through 14, where Satan says, "I will ascend above the height of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." Pride, rebellion, and an inevitable fall. That's the Leviathan spirit. Man is no match for Leviathan, nor his weapons, and likewise, man is no match against the dragon. If man is no match for Leviathan, Leviathan is definitely no match for Yahweh. In Revelation chapter 6 verse 17 it says, "For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand?" And in Luke chapter 11 verses 21 and 22 it says, "When a strong man guards his goods, but when one is stronger, it overcomes him." Only Christ can overpower the strong man, which is Satan and Leviathan. And in Job chapter 41 verses 10 and 11 it says, "No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand against me?" In Jude chapter 1 verse 9 it says, "Yet Michael the archangel, in contending with the devil, dared not bring against him a reviling accusation, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" Even Michael the archangel knew that only God's name can subdue Satan. Leviathan's physical might mirrors the spiritual power of the adversary, and both are subject only to the Lord. Psalm chapter 74 verse 14, "You crush the heads of Leviathan." Only Yahweh has this authority. There are many parallels between Leviathan, its attributes, and Satan. Fire-breathing and destructive power. In Revelation chapter 9, verses 17 through 18, it says, "Out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these three plagues a third of mankind was killed." This describes end-times demonic forces, fire-breathing entities from the abyss, paralleling Leviathan's terrifying power. And in James chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity, set on fire by hell." Spiritual fire in speech imagery connects to Satan's corrupting influence, like Leviathan's flaming breath, a twisted, crooked serpent. Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1 it says, "Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, that twisted serpent, the dragon that is in the sea." There's a direct connection between Leviathan, a serpent, and a dragon. And in Genesis chapter 3 verse 1 it says, "Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field." The original deceiver, the serpent, Satan, mirrors Leviathan in form and cunning, king of the proud. In Job chapter 41 verse 34 it says, "He is king over all the children of pride." We read this in Isaiah chapter 14 verses 12 and 15, where it says, "How you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, but yet you shall be brought down." Satan is the archetype of pride, echoing Leviathan's dominion over prideful beings. 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 6 says, "Lest being puffed up with pride he fall into the same condemnation as the devil." In Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 it says, "Pride goes before destruction." And in James chapter 4 verses 6 through 7 it says, "God resists the proud, submit to God, and resist the devil." Pride links man to Leviathan. Submission to God breaks that dominance. Now let's zoom out a little further. And in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, we see that the earth is formless and the waters represent chaos. In Genesis chapter 3, Satan appears as a serpent, connected to Leviathan, the serpent of the sea. In Job, Leviathan stands as the unchallengeable beast, the king of pride. In Isaiah, Leviathan is judged. In Revelation, the dragon, which is Satan, is cast down and eventually thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation chapter 20 verse 10 says, "The devil was cast into the lake of fire, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." The Leviathan theme moves from chaos to pride to opposition to judgment to defeat. Leviathan is a multi-tiered symbol. It's literal, a real, terrifying creature that God made. It's symbolic of Satan, chaos, and pride. It's prophetic, pointing to the final beast and ultimately the final judgment of evil. It's theological. Leviathan shows man's weakness, Satan's strength, and Yahweh's supreme authority. And it's personal. The proud heart is Leviathan's realm, but Yahweh calls us to humility. Leviathan ends in defeat, not by man, but by God. So what is Leviathan? He's a beast of the sea, a picture of Satan, and a prophecy of the dragon yet to rise. He is untouchable by human strength, but completely subject to the power of Yahweh. Leviathan connects ancient memories, real creatures, mythic dragons, and prophetic truth. The Bible, through Job, Psalm, Isaiah, and Revelation, shows us that the spiritual war is ancient, but God's victory is assured. Psalm 104 verse 24 says, O Yahweh, how manifold all your works! In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. Will you worship the spirit of the proud Leviathan? Puff up your chest and say, I can do it myself. Or will you worship the creator of the serpent, the God become man, the suffering servant, the sympathetic high priest, the first fruit of resurrection, and the soon coming conquering King of Kings, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach? Joshua chapter 24 verse 15 says, choose this day whom you will serve. And in Matthew chapter 12 verse 30 it says, he who is not with me is against me. It's your choice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And go ahead and write in the comments on who you're choosing to serve. We'll see you at the next deep dive.